Welcome to Foxhole Symphony, a podcast about the transformational value of men in authentic community.
In our Foxhole, men are equipped to build relationships that foster belonging, accountability, and growth.
Stop believing the lie that you can thrive in isolation and instead
join us on the journey from broken to whole. Life can be very hard. Our world is broken, unforgiving, and full of fear, anxiety, and pain. Sure, we experience deeply fulfilling moments of victory, but most of life is lived in the valley, not on the mountaintops. And it can get pretty lonely in the valley. Adversity is the prevailing human dilemma, and from it, we cannot free ourselves. No amount of power, money, or intellect can do it. All around us, an entire generation is struggling, mostly alone. And yet, most of us ignore what's readily available to help us not only survive, but to thrive in the face of suffering. Authentic Christian community. Here's the truth. In isolation, we're distracted and defenseless. But connected with our brothers and God, we're focused and fortified, made strong in our weakness, ready for anything.
Perfect.
Here we go.
Love it.
So, hey, I'm Sarge, and I'm here with my brother Mark.
Hey.
And I want to tell you, 15 years ago, I was married 7 years, a dad of 2 toddlers. I think it's safe to say I was overwhelmed and feeling utterly disconnected. And I heard about this guy sitting next to me who invited strangers into his basement to, get real, find healing, and I don't know, bond. Who knows? I honestly, truth be told, I didn't know what to expect. I just knew I was hurting and broken. And a guy told me, you got to go talk to this guy, Mark. He's got this thing called Bob, Band of Brothers. And next thing you know, I showed up on his doorstep an hour before I was supposed to be there. And Mark, I don't know, man, take it from there. I didn't know what was inside, but you did.
As unfamiliar and uncertain as you were, dude, it was no different inside the door than outside the door. It was messy time in my life, but one that was just the beginning of my journey with Christ is really how the common denominator there. The Band of Brothers started out of pure need on my part, just need to be connected. We had a group of, I think, 5 families meeting here in a church life group where families got together. Mainly we ate good food, socialized together, fellowship together, prayed together. And I thought the guys were cool. And I really was looking for some friendships tied to the church and invited the guys to come over one Thursday night. 16 years later, we've been meeting every other Thursday for 16 years here in the basement.
Yeah, so that's all you got. Listen, 16 years of data, and we won't get into the whole story, but in its essence, and I want to talk about this because it's foundational to why we're here, right?
Yeah.
It for 16 years you had all these different guys, different people showing up, right?
Hundreds, yeah.
We had guys showing up in their pajamas in the middle of the night as we're about to close the meeting, right? Dollar signs on their pajamas coming down the stairs ready to just, vomit.
God bless Gunner.
Who needed help, right? Who needed help. And we weren't about to break that up, but it was like, yeah, come on, get in here. What's going on?
Right.
So why? I guess why? Why did guys feel safe doing that? And
it's a great question. Right, it's the $64,000 question is, okay, guys, Bob didn't start the way it is today, right? I mean, I'll actually have no problem going backwards in this. Today, Bob is a group of 5 to 10 guys, and it's a changing group, right? Because there's really not much of an agenda. We don't take roll call. We don't collect dues. You come as you are. And you can come early, you can come middle or late, but we stop at 10 because I'm old and I want to go to bed. But
wasn't that way 15 years ago? That's for sure.
Remember those midnight
meetings?
meetings?
Oh man, some late nights.
Right. So today we pray hard. We worship well, and then we dig deep. We peel the onion back far. Rewind 16 years. It was messy. There was just a spark. I wasn't even smart enough to realize what God was doing then, but I can tell you today, he just put a spark there that made me want to keep on doing it. Ill-equipped. When I say messy, I mean me. I mean, totally, I'll do disclaimer for myself is I have no training in counseling or psychiatry or, addiction.
Nor do I. Let me just jump on that pile. Nor do I.
Right. So I'm not certified in anything except faith, I think. I'm certified in my friendship with you and my integrity matters. And I think that's really what the foundation of it was then. And we had 5 guys, then we had 10, then we had 20, then Marked Men for Christ hit. And you remember we had meetings with 30 guys.
40,
right.
40, 50, right, in a basement.
And I'm thinking,
got pretty crowded pretty quick.
Right, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing here? I was like lost. But I had let it work. I've got had leadership roles. I've organized meetings. I've written agendas. I've presented. I love that stuff. So I thought, let me do that. That's what this is. Let me get a spreadsheet and a PowerPoint. And God had a totally different plan for that. Messy was appropriate. If you're going to invite strangers into your house with your family. Right? My wife and kids are upstairs as there's a conga line.
Yeah, many would advise against this, okay? Many would advise against this.
Right. So there's a conga line of guys coming down. And I remember having the conversation with Rhea. And she's like, is this okay? Is this a good idea? I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's good. And we've never had a safety issue of any kind. But nope. Men are showing up in their brokenness, in their honesty, because they needed something. I didn't know that then. I may have intuitively known, but if a guy's going to come out on a Thursday night, away from his family at 8:00 at night and stay till 11 or 12 back then, and just listen to other guys pour their stuff out without a real focus. I mean, I tried to be biblical about it, mildly effective, but ultimately we have successfully gathered and just been honest with each other. We have brought our real life stories, as you said in the opening, about the world and authenticity and what's out there, the valleys. It's the valley of real life. It doesn't mean you're crawling around on your belly every day. It's just there's a lot of layers of stuff. So we meet now and we talk about words like broken. We talk about safe. Because the Band of Brothers, Bob, as we lovingly refer to it, is a safe place. And I think that's very attractive to men, right? What we talk about at Bob, we talk about at Bob, period. We talk about accountability, love, belonging, growth. These are the words that dominate the conversations. We share our life stories. We share accountability. We share love. We serve together. We pray together. We grow together. And that community has become a real and authentic place for men to show up no matter where they are and in their brokenness. And I mean, Sarge, we've got guys with horrific addictions and terrible stories of brokenness and abuse and
trauma
in their lives and the anxiety and fear and darkness that goes with that. Yet, no matter what, we leave room to hug each other. We also leave room to kick you in the tuchus if that's what's appropriate for you that night. But you're loved there, you're safe there, and I think guys keep coming back. I mean, not only you, but there are 2 or 3 other guys that have been coming for 13, 14, 15 years.
Absolutely. And it's because of the fruit, right? We can look back over 15 years, 16 years and see, you could see the faces, you could see the stories, you can see the life change, the real life change that took place. So not to jump ahead, but that was a beautiful summary. We could go on and on, but that's exactly why we're here, right? That is why this podcast exists, because no matter where you are in your journey, there's opportunity. There's opportunity to get connected, be transformed, and there's some requirements. There's some requirements, right?
Sure.
And we'll talk more about that. But you mentioned a disclaimer earlier.
Yeah.
Any others before we kind of continue and jump right into Foxhole Symphony?
No, I think we agreed, right? This is just going to be honest. This is going to be imperfect, just like Panda Brothers and the rest of our lives, but it's going to be beautiful because we're going to be honest in everything we talk about. We're not published. Nope. We're not PhDs. Nope. We don't have training certifications, but we have hearts for each other and hearts for God. And that binds us and holds us together and drives us to want other men to have this. That's really what this is about, right? Disclaimers aside, what we claim is authenticity and want men to realize how beautiful this can be in its messiness.
Yep.
A challenging, hard journey is what we're talking about, but oh so cool to do it together. Just again, like you said in the beginning.
So the name of the podcast is Foxhole Symphony. And, we're pretty excited about it. If you can't tell, if you can't hear it in our voices, we have been waiting for this. We've been for months with great anticipation, and we're sitting here staring at each other across the table with huge grins
in the basement.
Yeah, right where it all started. right where it all started. So
exactly, that's not lost on us.
So you already touched on it, talking about Bob, but what do we mean by foxhole? What's this foxhole we speak of?
Well, most guys know, right? Foxhole, you're in a battle, you're digging a hole, right? So back in World War I, actually the Germans came up with this. It had to do with, they called it a fox den, and I'm not going to say it in German, but I think that's the origin of the word foxhole. And then slit trench came out of that. And ultimately it was when the crap is flying over your head and you're in a fight, you want to get underground. You want to get down low so you're less vulnerable. And that's the essence of foxhole. Just to take that into a more contemporary view of foxhole, that battle that these men obviously we're not in a shooting battle, but we are absolutely in a battle with the enemy, with the worldview, with a lot of different things every day.
Sure, just adversity.
Right, that men face just by waking up and opening your eyes. There's some things you got to confront every day. Well, the battle that we're talking about is the battle against our calendars, the battle against distractions, the battle against fear and anxiety, and the things we don't want to tell anybody about, that the dark stuff, right, that we just keep. That's where the battle is today. So foxholes, then and now, are safe places. Foxhole's a place where you feel protected, where you have each other's back. I think you said this, I can tell you what's coming up behind you that you'll never see.
Yep.
I love that. That's the value of a foxhole and why it's so appropriate for the name of the podcast.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I love it.
Yep.
Thank you. You said that well. And the symphony part, what the heck does a symphony have to do with foxholes, right? Well, as I look back over the last, 15 years of this journey with you, whether it be at Bob or Markman or other environments, other foxholes, there's just something beautiful that happens. And I think of sort of the orchestra, practicing, right, before the symphony. And it's just this cacophony of sounds and noises and just all the different instruments playing their own thing. And then, the conductor, taps and
everybody.
And all of a sudden it's just this beautiful sound, right? This orchestrated sound. And it's a lot like a Bob meeting. It's a lot like what we do in the foxhole. But it's more like, death metal, just this, this grunge band, coming in, right? All different. I mean, like you said, the mess, the noise, what everybody's bringing in. And over the course of 2 hours or 3 hours, and certainly over 15 years, if we elevate up and look at that whole journey, it just turns into this beautiful piece of art, right? The healing, the transformation that begins to take place. So, out of these foxholes come just really something of beauty from ashes, right?
Right. Dude, I'm just sitting here thinking, when you were just talking, I'm thinking about you showing up at the door. You just said 15 years for like the 5th time. And I'm now remembering you sitting there and how scared you looked.
I thought you were going to say utterly screwed up, but
No.
that too.
Yeah, just but really, I'm remembering like the tears welling up in your eyes, and I realize now it was hope. You were hoping that, that there might be some beautiful music inside, right? That there is a place you could be safe, and it's tying together for me right now, like just as we're talking about it. Because, dude, I have ask anybody in my house. I have a hard time remembering yesterday, no less 15 years ago. But that was a great day that I almost screwed up totally, and you know it.
Yeah, I do. I wasn't sure if you were going to go there, but can I tell the story?
Absolutely.
All right, so here it is, real quick. So, this is how screwed up we were, right? So I hear about, I actually was sitting in church, and a good friend of ours, Dan Arthur, was preaching. And afterwards, I was so desperate. I'm like, let me just go talk to this guy. And I went up to Dan, and I'm like, man, I need something. I don't know what I need, but and whatever I said, he knew to direct me to you, to direct me to Band of Brothers. And this wasn't a sanctioned church ministry. This was a bunch of strangers hanging out in your basement, right?
Exactly.
So Dan's like, hey, give me your number, and I'm going to pass it along to this guy, Mark, and he's going to call you, and he'll give you all the details about this group of guys that get together. I think it's exactly what you're looking for. And I'm like, great. And, filled with hope, my tail's wagging, and I go home, and I wait. And I wait. And Monday comes, and I haven't heard. And Tuesday comes, and Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, and another full week. And I don't remember. I don't know if it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I don't know either.
It was definitely weeks, not days.
It was too long.
And I think, and I'm like, and then I get this call, and I'm like, who? Who's this? Like, I'm like, man, all right. I thought, there's no way I'd ever hear from you, and there we were. Yeah,
you're off the radar at this point. And
so clearly Dan didn't express the sheer desperation of my heart.
And the truth is, as you well know, and I've admitted to you too many times, and to anyone else who'll listen, is that when you showed up, we had probably just hit a point where the men in the current group were getting a little bit honest and intimate. And I was thinking, and then you showed up. I'm like, he's going to screw this up. Yeah.
There was definitely the potential for that.
Right. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? There's a new guy. I've got 7 guys downstairs, and it's going great. And my heart was not aligned. And thank God, I don't know that God just talked me out of it, or Maria talked me out of it, or somebody just said, you've got to welcome everybody. And so that's what we've done. You set the stage and catalyzed. Bob is bring it. Almost every week, and not every, but very, very often, someone shows up inside or outside, and I've never met them before. I have no idea what I'm getting.
Right.
What we're getting. Mm-hmm. But we just assimilate, and we just
over the years we learned, right? We're like, wait, God must have a plan here. God must have a plan. It took about 10 years, but
it did, right? And it's like, Lord, let me get out of the way of this, please. Can I just make coffee
and show up? I'll show up.
Right. I'll bring some snacks, a case of Deer Park waters, and a candle, and that's it, and tissues, right? And that's
I love it.
Right.
So we talk about, and people heard in the intro, we talk about transformational value. The transformational value of authentic community, right? That's what we say. And we want to unpack some of those words in this first episode, because we realize that some people are going, what are you talking about? Right. So, and we've touched on it already in my story, in your story, and in the stories of those that came through these various foxholes. But, picture a man today who, gets up, feet hit the floor, takes a deep breath. Here we go again, right? Goes in the bathroom, brushes his teeth, starts to go through the motions, looks in the mirror saying, I can't believe I got to go back to this job, right? Walks out the door, goes to the job, works his tail off, comes home, and, his wife says, hey, did you get the mail like I asked you to? And the garbage cans, they were at the end of the drive. Did you get those down? And hey, nobody emptied the dishwasher today. Could you just handle that, please? Like I'm busy. I got my hands full, and the kids and this, and I'm preparing a meal, and the guy snaps. The guy snaps, right? And uses whatever cutting words and loud voice, right? And makes his wife feel tiny, right? Or maybe the kids. Daddy, where you been all day, right? This is a common dilemma. And, picture that same man getting up in the morning, takes a deep breath, and knows exactly what he's called to do that day. Has mission, purpose, focus, right? How he's going to love his wife and kids, what he's going to do, how he's going to influence the people at his job, and knows that he's on mission, right, with God. And as a result of his brothers pouring into him, sharpening him, helping him see that, he's got breath in his lungs another day, not to be wasted, but because God's got a plan. God wants to use that breath. What are you going to do with it, right? Yep. What does he want to do with it? And so, listen, that transformation, that from that first man to the second man, it's real heart change that leads to a life-altering shift. That doesn't happen coming to one meeting, right? Coming to one Bob meeting or finding one group, but over time, inch by inch, right? Interaction by interaction, that transformation takes place. And Richard Rohr said, what we don't transform, we transmit.
Amen.
So we've been broken. We're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk about how we've been wounded or wounded others. Some of us in a traumatic way, others not as traumatic, but we've all been wounded.
But as impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And so that which we don't transform, we transmit. That first man was just transmitting his woundedness, right, onto his wife, his kids, maybe at work, who knows?
Yep.
Right. So this transformation is critical and very accessible. And the value piece, well, what's the value of that? Well, it has ripples. It not only impacts my marriage and my relationship with my kids, but the ripples are endless. Out from there, it's my extended family. It's now my my workplace, my job, my boss, my coworkers, people strangers I encounter. Right, the checkout person at the supermarket, the gas station attendant. Am I just going through life ignoring these people, right? Or am I intentional about each of these interactions? And there's the value. It's not just my own heart change, but how God might use that to influence and impact others' lives. Right?
Transformational value.
So that is a result from authentic community. And you already touched on this talking about Band of Brothers, but why don't you talk about what do we mean by this, authentic and community?
Before I get there, there's a couple things that just jumped out from what you just said. I loved it. An inch closer. Mm-hmm. It's so much part of my prayer life that you're aware of. It's just help me grow 1 inch closer to you. And that inch closer, and the part you said about it not happening in one meeting. Right? There's a commitment required, right? The journey we're talking about, this transformation potential, comes with work.
Sure.
Right? I mean, you've got to get in it, right? You've got to be willing to expose some parts of yourself that are going to hurt.
I say you have to be an active participant.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't just, it's not going to just happen to you.
Right. And we say at Bob, you can come to fill others or be filled. Mm-hmm. You can only sit there hoping to get filled for so long, right? We can pretend that we've got it together and all those other guys are much more screwed up than I am.
Well, here's the other thing we talk about, right? At Markman, if the cup's already full with whatever it's filled with, well, you can't get more full. It's already full, right? So if we come filled with our baggage, well, we got to create space before we can get filled, right? So how do we create space and empty some of that cup, right?
Yeah, let me try and unpack authentic community a little bit. Besides the obvious, which I'm really good at. At a young age, we're taught, be who you need to be to get what you need. Mm-hmm. Wear a mask. Put on the mask of the day or the moment and adjust. You get what you want. You pose, we pretend. When things aren't going well, we tend to hide and cave up so nobody can see our vulnerability and our weaknesses. I would say today, authenticity is covered up by a lot of layers of world crap, life stuff. Okay. Authenticity, I think the word that comes to mind for me is real, right? What's authentic? It's real. I would argue authenticity is rare today, really rare. Authenticity, if you're authentic, you're unburdened. You're certified if you're authentic, right? If you're the real deal, right? That's authentic.
Yep.
So all those words I would use to describe what an authentic man looks like. And I don't know too many that aren't a work in progress, an authentic work in progress, where we get to see, you and I have been at this long enough together and share, just a deep love for one another. And we've got, our stories are there. I mean, there are deep, deep details that allow you a level of authenticity with each other. But let's be honest, bro, we've climbed that mountain almost every day.
Yep.
Like, what's the challenge of the day?
Well, over and over again.
Right. And sometimes the same mountain, but I can't tell you the last mountain I climbed alone. So therein lies the community part. Okay. So authentic community, simply, there's absolutely no question that there are some things in our lives we are meant to do alone. There just simply are. I think those are much fewer than the things that we are not only called to be in community for, but are just easier. The hard stuff in life tends to be easier when someone's there to help you. I know that sounds obvious.
Absolutely.
God calls us to be in community with each other, to do life with each other, to come out of our caves. We'll get into that, I'm sure, in future episodes together about what happens when men cave up. What good comes out of that?
They ain't growing.
Right. Hard to grow in the dark.
Yep.
I know. I actually said that to somebody, and they're like, mushrooms,
Yeah.
starfish, like, okay. So they're...
Hey, when you're a mushroom, come back and tell me about it.
So alone, isolation, not in community means fear. It means anxiety and pain. But if you're with a community of trusted brothers where you stand together in your foxhole and you say, this is our goal. We have a common goal. We're going to drive to it together. For you and I, every day, our common goal, grow 1 inch closer to Jesus, right? To Christ and others.
Yeah. And we talked about the result of that. We talked about this journey, and we're going to talk about it a lot over the course of this podcast, hopefully, God willing. But we talk about the journey from broken to whole. And I think we got to be careful, right? Even when we talk about transformational value, like, hey, there's not this, listen, we've been doing this for 15 years. We've arrived. We've got it all together. We are utterly transformed. Let me tell you. I mean, it's a journey, and it's a continual process of looking at our brokenness, finding our brokenness, and offering that, in a transparent way to be transformed, right? And so this journey from broken to whole, you mentioned it earlier, it's messy.
Right.
It's messy. It's messy
That's
and beautiful. And that's where the symphony comes in. You also mentioned, Mark, that it requires some things. I mean, it is a process that involves vulnerability. It involves and requires accountability. It's like, oh man, really? Like, who really loves to be held accountable? Dude, I don't know many people, right? Like, I mean, whether it's the personal trainer, your health coach, whatever. I mean, maybe if you're like an elite athlete, you just thrive on that, right? Like, but dude, listen, most people are not like, yeah, where do I sign up for more accountability? That's awesome. Nah, dude, that's painful, right? Vulnerability, like as men, what?
Right.
Vulnerability equals weakness.
Run away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, these are things that are tough, but required. I mean, that is part of that journey. But it also involves encouragement, right? It involves affirmation, that hug you talked about earlier.
Yep.
You mentioned, we put on these masks we learn to do that at a young age, to be who we need to be, to get what we need, right? Well, what's the need? Well, it's different for each of us.
Exactly. What do we need?
Right. Yeah. So, in this journey, we will find that we'll get what we need in an authentic way, in a healthy way, versus putting on this mask and trying to get it in a way that is inauthentic and, quite frankly, isn't really giving us what we need. It's sort of masked, right? And it just requires real work. We mentioned work earlier, and it's heart work. It's heart work. It's digging into these sort of, dark crevices, being willing to look at the things that most of us are just not really willing to look at, let alone put a voice to. I mean,
right?
Listen, that we could go a lot of different directions right there. Everybody's, if you're like me, you just got a pit in your stomach. Like, wait a minute. Talk about what? Right.
Right.
So, but you mentioned safety and, so it's about, I know you love the skit guys, right? Like, just getting chipped away,
yep. God's chisel,
just chipping away,
God's chisel
by God and our brothers to build a masterpiece. And that's a lifelong journey. But it's one that's worthy. It's worth doing.
Absolutely. You've hit so much good stuff, and I'm feeling so much better.
Thanks. That's all I got. You're doing the rest of the episodes on your own.
No.
I'm out of bullets.
I'm feeling so empowered now about future episodes after listening to you. But just love your heart about the honesty of the journey. Here's a what do they call it in a movie when you give away the spoiler alert. Sorry. Spoiler alert.
Wait. We need a spoiler alert.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
Anyway.
The journey part of this.
Yeah.
If anyone is listening and expects to get the answer, I'm telling you now, Sarge and I do not have the answer. But we have answers. And we have a roadmap. And we understand what this journey is like because we're on it. And we're going to be on it until we go home. Until we're in heaven, we'll be on this journey together. And there's value in doing this together. It hurts some days, but I just echo everything you said about being authentic, getting real value from it, and enjoying this time. We don't want to overemphasize how hard this is, but I just don't want any man to think, I just get with a couple guys and, it's a sleigh ride. It can be, but you're not driving.
And it does. It leads to flourishing. I mean, we started out with this prologue. It could sound a little doom and gloom, right? But we're just trying to make the point that life is hard. Life is messy. And, some of us experience more mess than others. Let's face it. But there's opportunity. There is opportunity to, live out our days thriving and flourishing. And it doesn't mean we're not going to have adversity, but it's in how we approach that adversity and who with.
Right.
And approaching it on our own in isolation is far more challenging.
Right.
And so listen, Mark, we've talked for about a half an hour. Talk about what's next. I mean, what can people expect from Foxhole Symphony? What kinds of topics and questions are we going to address? What are your thoughts? Where do we go from here?
We're going to hit some real questions, right? Each episode will allow us to, of course, meander a little bit, which we're great at. Also allow us to unpack some really important areas such as, let's say, what do men want or need, which are two very different things. What common dilemmas do men face? Mm-hmm. Where can we add value by saying, hey, we've talked to 10 guys and 9 of them are all addressing this particular issue. It could be an addiction issue. It could be a lust issue, a porn issue, a drug issue, an alcohol issue.
Can I touch on that? So, and it just hit me like that. That is so critical because in our isolation, we can think we're the only ones dealing with this. Right. And so as we discuss these and, start to open up not only our own lives, but, have guests on the podcast and, tell some stories of others we've encountered, stories of transformation. Right. Hopefully it gives listeners, just a little bit extra courage to face maybe some of these areas that before then they weren't willing to face.
Love that. So with that level of honesty, then you say, okay, if I'm a guy listening to this and say, well, okay, if I put my stuff out there, what happens? What do we do about it?
Sure.
And while again, you and I, we have duct tape, we have hammers, Band-Aids, we have all kinds of different.
Yeah, we'll fix you up.
Right.
You'll be good.
But what we're going to do is talk about our journey and the journey of other men that we've been on. And we're going to invite other people to join us to talk about their journeys.
Yep.
And I think men will come to understand that we're not making this up, right? We've walked this walk, right? We have some scars from it, and we understand that tomorrow might be a tough day, but together, I'm okay with that. I can live with that every day. So, and then I think success and failure, guys, I don't want to speak for anybody else. We're kind of quid pro quo guy. If I do this, then what happens? What do I get back if I invest in this area? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what being an authentic community can do for you in your life and impact for the good for your family, for your relationship with your wife, with your brothers, with your brother and sister, family, coworkers, church friends, etc. How those ripples you talked about, that pebble in the pond is beautiful in community, right?
It sure is.
So that's what I think are some of the things you can look forward to by joining us in the Foxhole Symphony.
Well, I know what I'm looking forward to. And, I do believe that, at least I hope that people's lives will be impacted through the podcast. I know that we share that hope, but for me, man, brother, it is such a joy to get to do this with you. We've had so many opportunities to kind of lock arms and join God at work, to do some awesome things. And, whether it be things like Feed the Need or, the Mexico makeover, times we literally almost, collapsed from exhaustion multiple times, actually many times, most of the time, because that's who we are, right? Go till we just crash. But
no hope.
Man, I sit here after 15 years and there's so many mile markers. There's so many places from that, that evening sitting on your front doorstep wondering what the heck is in there, to other points in my life where I got that hug or that kick in the ass that I needed. And, I sit here and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. If my wife and kids were here, I think they'd thank you. I believe that to be true. I hope. Maybe we'll have him on and ask him. It depends on the day.
Nick.
Yeah. But really, I would not be here, and not that I've got it all together. I don't, but I do lead with vulnerability and authenticity in the workplace, in my home, and I believe there are ripples as a result. And and I know that God did that, but He did it through you and other men in my life. So I thank you for that, and it's I'm excited for the journey.
Me too. Well, since we're being brutally honest, I'm sitting here thinking about your kids and when I first met them, when our relationship went from Steve comes to Bob to our families got to know each other, right? And while we don't go on vacation with each other every year, I can't imagine being closer to another family or another man. And I have some wonderful, thriving Christian men relationships in my life. Yours is special. I think about both your parents and your children were baptized in my pool.
Yeah. Yes.
Your parents and your kids. So,
and my wife.
Yes, right. So, I guess we throw you in again.
Yeah.
And I think about how it felt to swim in that water after the baptisms were over, and what a metaphor for my life that is, in our relationship that is for me. Nothing better. So, this is going to be a great journey. My tail's wagging so hard you'd think I was a helicopter. I'm really, really excited about what we could do together. Look forward to talking to anyone who wants to listener out there. Tell your friends, and we'll be back again soon. So let's recap what we talked about today. First of all, Sarge and I are blessed, so blessed by this podcast opportunity and a chance to talk to y'all. Secondarily, hopefully you have a better understanding of why we're here. At the core of everything we're talking about is love. We'll talk about that more as well. We learned that a foxhole is a safe place, and so is authentic community for men. We learned symphonies are masterpieces, and God uses our brokenness and giftedness to create a masterpiece in you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it and invite others to the Foxhole. You can find us wherever you download your favorite podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you know when new episodes drop, and please rate us and comment there too, as it'll help us get found by others who could benefit. Find, follow, and like us on your go-to social media networks by searching Foxhole Symphony, or visit foxholesymphony.com to make it super easy to find us. Drop us a line with feedback, questions, topic requests, who knows? Maybe you'll be a guest on a future episode. In the meantime, prepare to move, embrace discomfort, and just be you.